As thrilled as I was to have a Marvel animated series worth being excited for, the long wait between Season 1 and Season 2 was a bummer. However, it looks like the agonizing wait will be shortened considerably for the upcoming third season. The way Season 2's finale wrapped up, the story's all but set for the next season. And what should put the fans at ease is that the show's already been renewed for Season 3 and Season 4. In fact, the head of Marvel Studios of TV and streaming, Brad Winderbaum, has said Season 3 is going to come out next year and Season 4 the year after that. And I find that quite comforting. I think the ending of Season 2 and the mid-credit scene have done all the heavy lifting when it comes to what Season 3 is going to be all about. And in this video, I'll explore everything there is to know about the next segment of X-Men 97, which is almost certainly in 2027.
To me, my X-Men.
Where we left off, Season 2's ending broken down. It's been quite an eventful Season 2, hasn't it? I mean, usually after an exceptional first season, there's always an apprehension among the fans if the show will live up to the standards. X-Men 97 Season 2 came out with all guns blazing, as the X-Men were scattered across timelines, stuck in ancient Egypt and a futuristic world dominated by Apocalypse. Early into the second season, Apocalypse was set up as the major threat, and the X-Men tried to contain him as En Sabanur in the past, and also his tyrannical version in the future, only to fail. The death of Magneto marked a major event as Xavier reeled from the loss, and then we had a few episodes where the X-Men were left to deal with some other situations, before the final two episodes brought us right back to where we started. The finale, Survival of the Fittest, resolved the Apocalypse threat directly, but honestly, I expected more from the ending than a love-struck rogue blessed by Isan to absorb Apocalypse into a celestial gem. Like, really? Cable stood around like the prophecy meant nothing, and all he gets in the end is the responsibility to safeguard the celestial gem that now holds the essence of Apocalypse. Well, at least they didn't kill him with a gunshot. Gambit, who was dead and then revived as one of his horsemen, was now back to normal, and Nightcrawler, who chose to sacrifice himself for his sister, is the one who ends up dead. You see, it was all a deal, where Isan allowed Rogue enhanced powers to fight Apocalypse, only in exchange for her life, and Nightcrawler bypassed the deal by offering himself instead. So, the X-Force under Cable has the responsibility to ensure that Apocalypse remains contained. And something tells me they'll fail at some point. But there's a bigger crisis brewing amidst them, and the mutant world is sitting on a ticking time bomb. Which brings me to the eventful mid-credits scene. The mid-credits scene that changes everything. It's not exactly a happy ending in Season 2, with the loss of Magneto in one of the earlier episodes and Nightcrawler in the finale. But at least the remaining X-Men are finally together, and Rogue and Gambit have a thing going after all they've endured. Well, it turns out that their happiness might be short-lived, because the mid-credits scene throws up a major shocker. The scene shows Valerie Cooper in her office as the news reports in the background suggest that the mutant-hating Graden Creed has now become the new President of the United States. Cooper scans through classified files, and just as she's looking at a file on Mystique, the real Valerie Cooper walks into the office right on cue. The one sitting there is only an imposter, and it's revealed to be none other than the shape-shifting Mystique herself. She proceeds to shoot the real Valerie Cooper, who's seemingly killed, and now she's all set to steal her identity completely and continue the charade as the imposter. I can totally see the chaos that she can unleash as she becomes an integral part of the government under Graden Creed, where nobody has the slightest clue about her real identity. Her file in the scene reads that she's determined to attack the United States, and she agrees in what I can only describe as a chilling ending. Clearly, she's up to no good, and the details of her scheme will only be unveiled later. I was also delighted to see that the voice actor Randall Carpenter, who played Mystique in the original 90s X-Men the Animated Series, has returned for her role after 3 decades. And the producer, Jake Castorena, has yet to confirm that this will be a permanent casting choice in Season 3, where Mystique is surely going to play a major role. So, how is the story set up, and what do we know so far? Who exactly is Graden Creed, and what does he mean for the story? I find this to be one of the most intriguing aspects of the Season 3 continuity, because Graden Creed is going to make life difficult for mutants. He has very strong anti-mutant sentiments, largely because of how he was raised by his parents, Sabretooth and Mystique. We saw glimpses of that in one of the episodes in Season 2, where he was abducted and the X-Men went to his rescue. He's featured in the original 90s animated series as well, and X-Men 97 simply continues the existing canon. He was affiliated with the Friends of Humanity, which is an extremist anti-mutant group, until it was revealed that his own parents were mutants. In the ongoing series, we've seen that Graden Creed commands a steady support among the public, and now that he's the president, I'm sure we can expect some strong anti-mutant policies in place. I'm also expecting a crackdown on the X-Men and severe reactions on the operations of Professor Xavier and his team. However, the rise of Mystique as she replaces Valerie Cooper as the imposter also becomes very interesting here because it adds a personal touch. She's his biological mother, and now she'll have an opportunity to work alongside him posing as Cooper. Of course, we all know about the infamous comic book storyline where Mystique from the future assassinates Graden Creed, and I wouldn't be surprised if something along similar lines takes place in Season 3. His death can trigger a hostile crackdown against mutants, and everything I've seen so far leads me to think that the political tension will be the highlight of Season 3. The Mystique reveal, straight from the writer's room. Mystique might be one of the most effective mutants out there with the kind of chaos that she can cause with her shape-shifting abilities. But she's also the worst mother ever. I mean, you don't get it worse than her because so far she's raised a monster in Graden Creed and abandoned the well-mannered Kurt Wagner, aka Nightcrawler, who's probably one of my favorite mutants. In the original animated series, we've seen the origin story where she abandoned Kurt Wagner as an infant. Now, I think we'll see more of her twisted motherly behavior as she deals with Graden Creed. I expect to see some hostility because there's no way that she's here to reconcile with her son. And by all means, she probably means the worst for him because of his anti-mutant stance. Mystique might be back into the mix of things, but I'd say that the bigger question is how long has she been hiding in plain sight? The original X-Men animated series creators Eric Lewald and Julia Lewald are involved with X-Men 97 as well. And in a recent interview, Julia admitted that the return of Mystique caught her off guard. She's a brilliant character, she's the world's worst mother, but she's fascinating, and that kind of stuff you go, oh my god, I didn't see that coming. But we should all have because it is Mystique, she said while speaking with Collider. Even Eric is excited about this comeback, and I'm quite confident that the first few episodes will be all about the evil shapeshifter and what she has in mind for Graden Creed and the X-Men. A character like this gives the writers the opportunity to tear the X-Men apart, because she's a master of deception and sinister plans. I love the fact that Mystique's presence in the story always spells with an aura of uncertainty, because you can never be sure who's in the room. Also, I'm curious to see how she reacts when she learns about Kurt's sacrifice to save Rogue. Confirmed villains. The Brotherhood rides again. I know we're all too concerned about Mystique and her role, but she's now the only threat for the world as we know it. The San Diego Comic-Con 2026 had some interesting revelations in this regard, and we learned that the Brotherhood of Mutants will be featured in Season 3. In fact, we've even seen a clip where certain members of this group, like Toad, Pyro, Blob, Avalanche, and Surge, have been shown, and they're fighting Sentinels painted in patriotic blue colors. Those who've grown up watching the 90s series will agree that this is a classic throwback to the Golden Era, because the group was last seen together back then. Of course, the original lineup from the comics with Magneto, Quicksilver, Scarlet Witch, and Mastermind wouldn't be possible here with the death of Magneto, but I expect the team to go by the same principles. The likes of Scarlet Witch or Quicksilver haven't been confirmed for Season 3, and I wouldn't be too quick to jump the gun. But the Brotherhood of Mutants might not be all black and white. Just imagine a world where mutants are hunted down and discriminated against. And this group might be a resistance force working independently without the X-Men in this context. These might not be the most powerful mutants out there, but they're still strong enough to pose a threat. And I wonder if Mystique as Valerie Cooper would do something to manipulate them. As suggested from the clip, they have to deal with hostile Sentinels on their tail, and don't rule out a future reunion with the X-Men once they sort out their philosophical differences. The other big storyline engine: Stryker, the Purifiers, and a possible Sentinel program. There's another big story that's caught my attention, and I think this one has some serious potential. You might have ignored Reverend William Stryker because of his limited presence in the show so far, but he might have a major role to play going ahead. Do you remember the confrontation in Season 2, Episode 6, Danger.exe? Here, his terrorist religious group, the Purifiers, were caught smuggling vibranium, and they clashed with the government-sanctioned X-Factor. Polaris single-handedly took out a few of them, but she was reprimanded by Valerie Cooper for coming down so strongly on humans. This caused her to leave the team and rejoin the X-Men, but the threat of Stryker still remains. If the government was already keen on tolerating the Purifiers, Graden Creed as president will probably give them more leverage. Don't be surprised if you see the Purifiers more active as they take down mutants randomly, often clashing with the Brotherhood of Mutants or the X-Men. The Sentinels, painted in American stars and stripes, also indicates a favorable government approving such anti-mutant actions, and Stryker might be a key member in orchestrating the violence. I'm very curious to see if the show heads toward a major event from the 2000s comics, when Xavier's school became more of an internment camp for mutants, and the Purifiers acted as an enforcement arm. Of course, I'm only guessing about this as of now because there's been no official statement on it, but it just fits in with Mystique waiting in the wings as Valerie Cooper. As I said before, we shouldn't forget that there's comic book precedence, where Creed is assassinated by Mystique. And as for the narrative of X-Men 97 Season 3, this is just waiting to happen. I'm just concerned about the consequences. Comic tie-in note: X-Men 97 Season 2. I'm quite intrigued by the ongoing comic series called X-Men 97 Season 2, which runs alongside the show and fills in the gaps. Now, this is not the show's Bible, and you can't read too deeply into the comics to predict the next course of the series, but it's still worth considering. So, in number 3, which was released the same week as the TV finale, we've seen X-Force hunting down Pestilence, one of Apocalypse's 4 horsemen, in Madripoor. It's revealed that Apocalypse had a larger scheme than what we've seen in the show, and I'm more than confident that Apocalypse will return in some form in season 3 or 4, because we're not done with him yet. I was wondering why the show was focusing solely on Gambit when he's supposed to have 4 horsemen, and at least the comic series has some answers. Wait, what about Onslaught? This has probably been my biggest prediction failure so far, because like many other fans, I was expecting Onslaught to make an appearance. There were enough hints and the situation aligned, but we still didn't see it in season 2. For those who don't know, Onslaught is the psionic entity born from Xavier's own suppressed rage merging with the fragments of Magneto's mind. And I almost expected this to be the endgame villain in season 2, but maybe the Onslaught saga is a possibility in season 3. You see, it doesn't really clash with the existing storyline, and I wouldn't be surprised if Marvel is purposely keeping this dormant, only to unleash it whenever they want. All the groundwork to bring about Onslaught is ready. In season 1, Professor Xavier had to make contact with Magneto's mind to stop the EMP. This has probably given him enough time to absorb his friend's negative energy. In season 2, the death of Magneto might be the potential catalyst that makes it more prominent, and we've seen how Xavier's disturbed and furious. If I go by the comics lore, Onslaught emerges when Xavier's anger against humanity for mistreating mutants crosses a breaking point, and I've already spoken about how likely this is in the upcoming season of X-Men 97, where anti-mutant propaganda will be at an all-time high. Yeah, it'll be slightly weird to see Xavier in a negative role, and I'm all for it, given the kind of challenge it'll pose for the X-Men as they try to contain Onslaught. What if Onslaught is the big bad of season 3 that nobody's prepared for?
War. I've been raiding his safe houses trying to figure out what that psychopath's cooking up.
Voice cast. The voice acting has been incredible in X-Men 97, and I think it's delightful news for the fans that a majority of the main cast is expected to be back for season 3. So we'll have Ray Chase once again as Cyclops, Cal Dodd as Wolverine, Ross Marquand as Professor Xavier, Jennifer Hale as Jean Grey and Madeline Pryor, George Buza as Beast, Holly Chu as Jubilee, Allison Seeley Smith as Storm, Lenore Zan as Rogue, and Chris Potter as Cable. Also, J.P. Karliak will reprise his role as Morph, and it'll be interesting to see if Randall Carpenter returns as Mystique. With new characters introduced in the game, you can expect to see a few new voice actors as well. And as for all the characters who died like Magneto or Nightcrawler, we may always have a flashback scene that requires the services of Matthew Watterson and Adrian Huff, who voiced them. Overall, this is a promising mix of voice actors, which means that the acting performances will be top-notch yet again. Psylocke's identity just got settled. I've always found Psylocke to be one of the most complicated characters in the X-Men roster, and Chase Conley has confirmed something about her on Twitter while responding to questions from the fans. He said that the Psylocke fighting alongside the team in Season 2 is Betsy Braddock and not Quanon, the Japanese assassin that Betsy body-swapped with decades ago. His one-word answer was enough to settle the debate, and I think it's quite significant because the current Marvel Comics continuity has spent years keeping the two characters separate, and Quanon holds the Psylocke identity in modern print. X-Men 97 is purposefully pairing the code name with the character who held it during the era that inspired the original 90s animated series. So if we see more of Psylocke in Season 3, you'll know that it's Betsy Braddock and not Quanon. Who's actually writing this season and what the cast and producers are teasing about the tone? Yeah, the writing has been an area of contention, and with the standards so high, we always wondered who would be on board for Season 3. The lead writer is Matthew Chauncey, who's a What If and Miss Marvel veteran, and he'd taken over after the exit of series creator Bo DeMeo after his exit. I would say that the show's in safe hands, and Jake Castorena will continue as the director. Meanwhile, Larry Houston and Eric and Julia Lewald remain the consulting producers on board, and this is probably what keeps the ongoing series grounded with the 90s canon and tone. You can expect more of the same, but if the early signs are any indication, Season 3 might just be darker, with the real-world crisis and hate worsening with Graden Kree's presidency. More sacrifices and tragedies might be in the cards, and I believe that the show will punch harder in the upcoming season. So, when is it actually coming out? Man, I wish I could give you a specific date so that you could block your calendar already, but it's a bit too early for that at the moment. There's been no official announcement about the specific month or day. All we have is a chain of on-record statements to keep reassuring fans that the third season is due next year. I already told you about the statement made by Brad Winderbaum, and he's confident about a 2027 release for Season 3 and a 2028 release for Season 4. It's good to know that he understands what the fans feel about unnecessary delays, and he said during an interview with Collider, even a year feels too long. I remember watching these every single day after school, and they would just be on as reruns. As for the extended future of X-Men 97, He said, "I just want to make as many seasons as fast as possible for people to see. And I'm sure that the fans will be thrilled to know about his vision." Also, the producer Larry Houston said in another interview that the production problems that delayed Season 2 were just a one-time problem, and these wouldn't be troubling in Season 3 and 4. Luckily, the production problems won't occur again. There was a huge gap of time between Season 1 and 2. They've learned their lessons, so with 3 and 4, that won't happen again, he said. We've all noticed that Marvel traditionally debuts first footage for its Disney Plus shows at New York Comic Con. And since post-production on Season 3 is already done, New York Comic Con in October 2026 is probably where we'll get the first trailer. However, just like it happened with the initial Season 2 trailer, it might only be restricted to the attendees in the room before it's made public after a few months. Regardless, I think it would be safe to expect the show to be released in the latter half of 2027. Track record. Why expectations are so high? Well, this is a show that has rewritten the records, and probably for the first time in decades, I'm genuinely excited by a Marvel animated series. So yeah, the show has ensured that the legacy of the iconic 90s series remains intact, and if anything, they've only made things better. This has been one of Marvel's best reviewed projects since the launch of the MCU, and the reviews of Season 1 or 2 were evidence of the love and support that the show has received. Yes, the Season 2 ending has fans divided, and personally, even I'm not thrilled by the way they treated Apocalypse, but I'm still looking forward to the next season because this is a show with tons of potential to bring some of the best comic book narratives on screen. I think that a more politically charged storyline will do the trick just fine as the X-Men continue their adventures. The expectations are high, as they should be, and I'm quite confident that the show won't disappoint. I'd love to hear your take in the comments below about what you expect from Season 3 and how you'd like things to be different from Season 2. If you like this video, please like the video, subscribe to our channel, and make sure to ring that notification bell so you don't miss any more of our marvelous videos. Stay safe, have a great day, and as always, stay marvelous.